What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Fargo Season 4, Episode 9, East/West. So this was pretty interesting. I don't really understand why they decided to go Wizard of Oz with it, where it's all black and white, and then the tornado pops up, and then it's in color. I don't really get that choice. There's probably some deeper meaning that if I looked it up, it might make sense, or if I thought about it a little bit more. I don't think I've had enough coffee yet this morning, it's fine. But, I mean, overall, it was a pretty solid episode. Uh, Kind of fitting with that Fargo feel of they were building up this obvious showdown where we see Calamita get up to the gas station, and then all of a sudden we flip over and we're with Rabbi and with Satchel for most of the episode. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so it feels like they're probably going to collide in this episode, right? Well, then all of a sudden, as Rabbi brings up the whole, I need to get him a birthday treat, she suggests the gas station down the way. I'm thinking, well, this is it then. It's going to be that station, isn't it? Sure enough, it was. But in typical Fargo fashion, it couldn't just be, Rabbi and Calamita get into a shootout. And I kind of figured Rabbi was going to die, mainly because he told the girl at the desk, tell him I'll be right back. And I figured she was going to say that to him. And he was going to be like, well, he's not coming back or something. I don't know. It felt like because he's been so, if I don't come back, I'm dead or in jail. If I don't come back, I'm dead or in jail. This time he tells the girl, hey, I'm going to be right back. It kind of felt like okay, now he thinks he's going to be just coming right back. That means this is probably going to be the time he doesn't come back. But the fact that it was a tornado, why? Because it's Fargo, Like, they couldn't just have them show down and then they kill each other or something. No, you had to have a tornado show up and likely kill both. I know there's a chance that they both could have made it out alive. Very slim. I mean, getting sucked into a tornado, there's a lot of debris. Most of the time you're high up, and then once the winds die down, you're going to fall. So unless it, like, sets you down softly or you fall somewhere in, like, that's not going to be hard, solid ground, there's a small chance it's not very likely. However, knowing this show, I feel like there's a chance that Calamita survived somehow and Rabbi didn't, just to add a little bit of extra tension. So Calamita's like broken and bruised, but still trying to kill Satchel. I don't know. We'll see what they decide to do with it. But overall, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to talk about in this episode. It was pretty fun to watch. Seeing Rabbi and seeing Satchel together and hanging out, and just again showing how Rabbi, he's not necessarily the best guy. He has his dark secrets. He has his things that he lies a lot. He lies basically almost as easy as he breathes. Although some of his lies do turn into funny moments, like whenever the cop shows up and he lies to him about how he fought with Satchel's father in the war. I don't know, something about that, because of course the cop is sitting there like, oh yeah, I'm gonna deal with this black kid here in this neighborhood, and then when he comes up and lies to him and basically makes the cop feel like a total asshole about it all, something about that's very funny. But even though Rabbi is not necessarily the best person, it still shows how much he cares about the kid. That he's very frustrated because of what happened with the money, not having as much. But you still have that moment where he realizes it's his birthday, and he goes out of his way to go get him something nice for his birthday because he does feel bad about it. So there's that side of him that makes him a sympathetic character, and it does make me feel bad that he's likely gone now. Like, obviously, until we see the body, we won't know 100% for sure, but it is kind of a sad moment for him. On top of that, the billboard thing was just hilarious. Or are you gonna finish it? Well, once I finish it, I'm out of a job. I mean, got a point. And then the future is now. What the hell does that mean? It's just perfect comedic timing on his deliveries. Yeah, I assume next episode we'll probably be getting back to the warring crime families and Orietta, Ethelrita, all of that stuff, since it's going to be the next to last episode. I don't know what's going to happen with Satchel from here on out. Again, there's a thought in my mind that because he was with a guy named Milligan, and there was a black guy named Milligan later on in the second season in the 80s, it still makes me think that he might be the same person, that Mike Milligan might be Satchel all grown up. But I don't know if we're going to see that transformation, or if that's just this is the last we see of Satchel, and we're just supposed to assume. Yeah, I mean, think about it. He's with a guy named Milligan. There's a Mike Milligan later on. They're the same person. I don't know. We'll see what they decide to give us information about, because sometimes they don't Sometimes things are just left as mysteries, and I don't know if they're going to answer all of the mysteries. In fact, once I'm done watching season 5, I'm actually going to look up and see if there's anybody talking about here are all the unexplained mysteries in Fargo and what they decided to just leave as ambiguous in story. But anyways, all that being said, on to the next episode. I'll see you there. And now episode 10, Happy. This one was a little weird in places, but also really good in other places. So first of all, we once again have the undead thing returning, which is a little weird. It's the only thing that keeps Orietta from killing Ethelrita, so again, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of odd. It just popped up out of nowhere throughout most of the season, hasn't really had much of an impact outside of a couple people reacting to it, and then all of a sudden, here in this one, we've got Ethelrita asking her mom about it, and then all of a sudden he shows up behind Orietta before she kills Ethelrita, and then scares her out, and then she runs right into the arms of the police, which was a hilarious scene, by the way. Just her screaming police, and they're like, "We are the police." It makes me think of I need an adult. I am an adult. So just really funny there, and everything with Orietta in this episode. Honestly, was really really fun to watch, mainly because we're finally getting to see her be a true villain. You know, most of the season she's put on kind of an act. She's made it seem like she's so nice, and then occasionally you'll see like these little looks, these little glances, but you don't typically see her interact with other people in this manner. But then in this one we see, I mean, she is very clearly like threatening Ethelrita, like, you don't know what you're doing, little girl. It's really intimidating, and the way she can switch like that is really, really well done. So props to the actress playing her. I don't know if there's going to be any of her in the final episode, because obviously she's been taken in at this point, but yeah, I've really enjoyed her story. If this is the end of her story, this has been a fun season having her. The stuff with, so Justo and Gaetano, obviously, sorry, I'm noticing I've got, my room is very dry, so a lot of static, so sometimes I see my hair standing up, it's bugging me. But Justo and Gaetano, their whole thing is just going after Otis, because it was a little weird, a little bit jumpy, because he arrests them at the beginning of the episode, and then a few moments later, they're out, and they're, I don't know how that happened, but yeah, they're out of prison now, they're not arrested. Okay. Could we see how they got to that point? And he's Justice calling him and basically threatening him. But we get to that moment, though, where Gaetano, you know, they've tracked him down, they've backed him into his apartment, he runs out into his car, and then Gaetano gets out, shoots him. I'm thinking, well, okay then, I guess that's the end of Otis. That was not how I expected him to go. And then Gaetano trips and shoots himself in the head. And Josto's reaction is exactly my reaction. What the... like... I mean, I'm not... It's not like Fargo's not done surprising deaths like this before, but something about this one was just so... Why? You know, from a writing team's perspective, why? What made you think, you know what, we need Gaetano to die now? We could have Otis, you know, manage to like get one shot off, and maybe it just hits him in the right spot that he bleeds out, or maybe like I don't, just anything, But for some reason, the writing team, it's like, you know what, maybe he just trips, and then he falls on his gun, shoots himself in the head. Maybe that's how he dies. How does that go through anybody's mind? Who thinks that? Who thinks, hey, we were going to kill off a major character, a major, like, antagonist for this season. We're just going to kill him off by having him trip and fall and shoot himself? I don't know. And it's just very, I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's also very weird, narratively speaking. Because that kind of takes out a lot of, I mean, with their mom dying 2 episodes ago, it kind of felt like it was setting up for an all-out war where Justo and Gaetano working together go up against Loy, but then all of a sudden now it's turned into they're going after Otis, they kill him, and now Gaetano's dead of his own hand. So it's just, I don't understand how that's supposed to make sense within the story. It's very, very odd. The stuff, though, we see a little bit more of Loy. He's working with this Happy, I think it's his cousin? No. It's somebody he knows, because Leon is Happy's cousin, and they're trying to make a deal. Again, more interesting moving pieces within the crime families and how they're trying to make deals and undercut each other in a way that, for Justo, this is a great deal for him because now he's bringing in somebody who thinks he's the big boss, but he's not quite as intelligent. He's not quite as good at this side of things as Loy is. So for him, it's like, yeah, sure, I'll work with him because he's too stupid to realize that I'm going to one-up him at every turn. Whereas Loy is catching on, knowing exactly what Joss is trying to do. So, yeah, I think it's very interesting to see all that happening. But of course, from Loy's perspective, he's just trying to find a way to survive in this. He's trying to find a way to keep himself above water and win the war without sacrificing too much. So it's very interesting to see how Ethelrita sort of flips the script a little bit. Comes in with this ring that belonged to the Donatello, I think. Fada, I think is the last name, but I think it was. I'm pretty sure it said Donatello, and of course Donatello only makes me think of like the artist and the Ninja Turtle, but yeah, it was something like that. It started with a D, last name Fada, but basically Josto and Gaetano's dad. Coming in with his ring, it does sort of. First of all, now she's sort of given him the information about what Orietta did, which of course gives him a little bit of leverage, but also just having the ring, because I'm pretty sure the ring is a very important thing in that line of business. Whoever wears it most of the time, like that's the symbol of power. So I'll be really interested to see how Loy ends up using this to his advantage, but really funny just to see how Ethelrita comes in and basically she knows she's got all the cards. This is not a bluff. This is not her thinking she's got something that she doesn't. She knows exactly what she has. And it's just so funny to see as Loy's just sitting there like, who is this little girl? Who's this girl coming in and telling me she's about to fix all my problems and really expecting me to give her what she wants? And then as soon as that moment happens, he realizes what she just gave him. Just that little coy smile from her. Like, Ethelrita has sort of been on the periphery for this season. She's had some fun moments throughout, but it was really weird how she started off the season with her narration. And then she was in, she was out, she was in, she was out. It didn't really feel like she was that important, but now all of a sudden we're getting to this point where she is kind of the focal point. She managed to outsmart Orietta. The cops got called, obviously not because of her, but she sort of set things on that path by sending the letter to Dr. Harvard, which forced Orietta to play her hand and try to kill him, and then that failed, and now he identified her as trying to poison her. So, clearly Ethelrita is kind of becoming the main character who is sort of helping her family out, getting them out of danger, but also getting some of these people who need to be brought to justice in that path. Granted, I still feel like Loy is being treated as she's helping him get to a seat of power, and I don't feel like that's something I necessarily want to see. I feel like Loy also is a character that needs to be brought to justice because a lot of the stuff he's done, he's not the best character either. But there are times where it feels like they're treating him as a sympathetic bad guy, and I'm like, no, he's kind of on the same level as like Justo and Gaetano in some ways. I mean, that one scene where he's like yelling at his wife and her mom. I mean, it didn't really paint him in a good light. And granted, some of that is again Chris Rock's voice. It makes it kind of funny and makes it sound like he's trying to be all, oh, I'm big and tough and I'm the big bad guy. And it's I know that was more Chris Tucker, but whatever. But it doesn't quite work. And so in those moments, I can't tell if they're trying to make him seem like, yeah, he's telling her exactly how it is because he's totally right. Or if it's supposed to be kind of, no, he's kind of a jerk. He's kind of an asshole. So don't root for him either. But I don't know. We'll see what they decide to do with it. Satchel, seeing him out on the road, I feel a little bad for him. He does take a big step and like, no, this is what I want to do. No more, hey boy, none of that. No, I'm taking control of my own destiny. Again, I don't know if this is going to be the birth of Mike Milligan or not. We'll see what happens to him in the next episode, but I'm a little worried about that dog. If that dog doesn't make it through this season, I'm going to be a little upset. No. But with that being said, on to the season finale, not series finale. That's the next one. I'll see you there. And finally, episode 11, Storia Americana. So this one, I mean, it's a pretty solid ending to the the season overall. Some shocking moments, some funny moments, and a couple of stupid moments, which unfortunately this season just had a few too many of. I would say it's still good overall. I still enjoyed it, but definitely out of all the seasons, this had more moments that made me go, "What?" or "Seriously?" So first of all, the big "what" moment is of course coming down to Lloyd's ending, because at first it kind of felt like he was just gonna get his comeuppance by, okay, he did all this stuff to get Josto out of there, so that way he could deal with somebody who didn't want him dead, didn't want him out of the way, and ultimately it backfires because of course this new guy, Ebel, well, not new guy, but Ebel steps in and essentially says, you know what, I'm gonna run this family how I want to run it, and decides to backstab him. And honestly, it's one of those moments where I was kind of looking at it going, you know what, this is probably his comeuppance moment, and it sucks, but that's what happens when you deal with criminals. You have to deal with the fact that they're probably going to backstab you at some point. So, in my mind, that's where it was. It was like, okay, well, you know what? It could have been worse. Like, he could be dead. Some of his family could be dead, but he actually made it out. And then all of a sudden, they go to the scene of him on the porch, and he's staring inside, and it's like zooming in slowly. I'm like, okay, so yeah, he's going to die here by somebody's hand. And the fact that it was El Mare, that for me was just so dumb. Because first of all, she's not a character I liked. Second of all, yeah, I know he's the one that told the deputy where they were, but it's not like did he tell Otis to shoot them and kill them, or I don't know. Like it was all kind of out of nowhere. We hadn't seen her since she ran away, and then all of a sudden she tracks him down and stabs him on his front porch. And also, again, just more of the cartoonish, Satchel opens the door and sees her. Shh. I was like, God, when she went to do that, I'm like, I swear, if she's about to shush him, and then she does, and all I could think was, please, please, show writers, give me what I want, and have Satchel just reach out, pull out his gun, and just shoot her right through the eyes. Please let that be what happens, because God, it would just be a fitting end for her. So the fact that she's the one that kills Loy, I just felt like, no, I didn't want to see her get her revenge. Yeah, go Zelmar. Nobody wants to see that, right? Did anybody like them? I'm sure there were some that did, but they weren't fun characters. She or Swanee. So the fact that she's the one that wins the day against Loy, she's the one that kills him, that's how that story ends? That's not what I want to see. If anybody's going to take the revenge on Loy, it should be somebody who deserves it. Maybe whenever they take his business, half of his business, maybe he decides, you know what, I'm going to go back on my deal with Ethelreda and her family. And then that's when they kill, or something like that. But for Zelmari to do it, it felt bland for an ending. And I know a lot of that, again, is down to the fact I didn't like her, I didn't like Swanee. They were both annoying, way too cartoonish of a character. But I just feel like narratively, that's not as satisfying for me to see some random, they were hardly involved. They were like in and out through most of the season. They were the weakest characters in my opinion, just in the way that they were written and how just chance, what's the word? Coincidental, a lot of the stuff that happened with them. It felt kind of dumb. So that was the big complaint I have for this episode. The rest of it was pretty fun. Seeing how a lot of what Josto said and did and what happened led to essentially his family turning on him and his crime family turning on him. And yeah, from a certain point of view, it makes sense. What he said to Orietta, it kind of sounds like, hey, could you take care of him for me? And what's interesting is I took that as, he just wanted his father to be taken care of because he loved him. But he never said that. Like, I expected him to say, no, I meant take care of him as a nurse. Like, I didn't know she was a killer. I didn't know she was going to kill him. But he never said that. He kind of implied that maybe he did want her to take care of him. I thought that was weird. And then on top of that, you have that moment where, what was it? Oh, with Gaetano, they're like, oh yeah, and you killed your brother too. He never said, no, he tripped and fell on his gun and it went off. Like, I know that sounds like a total excuse and like a lame excuse, but that's what happened. But he didn't ever say that. So I felt like his defense of himself was not realistic. I feel like at the point that he was, where he was basically staring death in the face. Maybe he was just too egotistical to think that they would actually get rid of him, that they would actually turn on him. And so maybe he's just like, well, I don't need to defend myself. You guys are working for. Maybe that's what was going through his mind. But I feel like most people, especially when they started to drag him out of the room, most people would have been like, fine, I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what actually was said, what I actually meant. But he never did that. However, I will say his and Orietta's death, both, I mean, it's shocking, but also kind of funny for her to be like, can he go first? I want to watch him die. What? Bang! just the suddenness of it, and the what shot. it was very well timed. I shouldn't be laughing at death, but Fargo can make you do that. They can make you laugh at some dark stuff. And then of course Orietta going as well. I mean, it's kind of what I expected. I'm glad they didn't have her get out of that seemingly impossible situation. Although she sees the ghost guy again at the end, and I don't get any of that. Somebody's gonna have to explain. If you understood the whole ghost storyline and what all that was leading to, you'll have to explain that to me, because I didn't get it. The stuff with Satchel, though, seeing him get to come home, and then they confirm at the end that he is Mike Milligan. I wish we could see why that happened, why he decided to change his name, and how he ended up working. Like, did he go after Zelmare after she killed his dad? I don't know. It just, he sees his dad or he didn't see him get stabbed, but he goes out, sees Zelmare with the knife. She gives him her cartoony little shh. And then he goes over and watches his dad die right in front of him. And then suddenly, mid-credit scene, he's Mike Milligan in the back of the car, remembering how he was walking down the highway with Rabbit. Don't you see how those two things connect? I don't, like, I called it, because again, you have a guy named Milligan, and he's taking care of this little black kid, and he's being good to him and being kind to him, and the kid is looking up to him. And there's a guy later on named Milligan that's also black. I mean, it connected. It made sense that that's what would happen, but I wanted to see how that happened. I wanted to see what led to that. I don't know. Milligan gets sucked up into a tornado. Satchel never sees him again, never hears from him again. And then his dad gets killed, and then suddenly, several years later, he's Mike Milligan. Why did he choose the name Mike? Why did he choose to use Rabbi's last name? I don't know. Because I thought he was just going to start his life on the road. So the fact that he went home, I'm like, oh, so maybe he's not. And then his dad gets killed. I'm like, so maybe he is? They really didn't do... I don't know. There's some things that they just don't explain in this show overall. But there's some things that happen, and you're waiting for an explanation, and then you don't really ever get one. And you're just left going, wait, but what was that about? Why is this a thing? I don't know. What else? Ethelrita, her little story at the end. Another thing I didn't really get. I guess they're just trying to say, hey, maybe our history is not the way you learned it. Maybe, the victors typically write the history books, and yeah, that's very true. But I don't know what point they're trying to make here. Like, oh yeah, actually, this is how things really are. In our show, this is how things really happen. No, it's a fictional story. We know this. I don't know what you're trying. If you're trying to make the point of maybe history doesn't happen exactly how it was written. I mean, obviously, it's stories passed down through time from people, and we've all played that telephone game when we were kids. You try to go around in a circle and say a sentence. By the end of it, it's a completely different sentence. So it makes sense. Most people already know this, or at least should know this. If they don't, then, well, they're probably watching all the main media networks and getting all their information from them, and they're like, oh, this is exactly what happened. This is definitely not being filtered through, somebody else's lens and trying to make somebody look bad. I don't know. It felt like a very obvious moral to the story, I guess. But again, I don't know if that's actually what the moral they were going for or not. That's just how I interpreted it. Maybe somebody else interpreted it a different way. And I think that's probably true for a lot of Fargo. Like, most of the show and most of how it's written is a little complex. It's a little vague. It's not always the most straightforward. Like there was the one guy that told the story about the turtle in the episode two episodes ago when it was all black and white. That story, I mean, you could take it probably in a few different ways. He never truly finished his point. So you could kind of try to figure out what he was saying, and some people might come to different conclusions about what his point was with that story. I think that's something that Fargo does that some people might like, some people might not. I'm on the fence about it. You know, on the one hand, it is intriguing and it does pull you in with its mysteries and its intrigue. But on the other hand, there are moments where it feels like they are vague in instances where I don't want them to be. I want them to be a little bit more clear. I want them to be, I guess, a little bit more explanatory and showing how something happened. But it is what it is. It's Fargo. It's pretty fun overall. I still had a decent time with this season. I think there were a lot of interesting elements. It started off a little bit slower for me than the past 3 seasons, but by the end of it, I was still having a good time. You still have a lot of a lot of death around the show, a lot of stuff happening that is, it's a bit dark, but it's also a little funny at the same time. They had some interesting characters, not quite as interesting, I don't think, as the first 3 seasons. I think the characters in those first 3 were stronger than the characters here, but they still had a lot of good characters around. I think Orietta was a lot of fun. I think all of the crime family drama was interesting, but it was more so the story than the characters. The characters themselves were kind of archetypes, you know, rather than actual depth feeling characters. I thought, you know, Ethelrita and her family, I thought they were fine. Obviously, I've already said it, but Zelmari and Swanee were the weakest characters. I think Otis had some interesting depth to him. I thought Deffy was fun, getting to see, you know, Timothy Oliphant be Raylan Givens again for the third time now that I'm experiencing it. I thought Rabbi Milligan was an interesting and very sympathetic character as well. And I thought just the overall story and how it all connected together, there were some fun moments in it. The different back and forth, you know, chess pieces moving around the board that the crime families were doing, and how there were outside forces that almost came in and sort of moved pieces for them without them even realizing it. There's something about that that's just very intriguing, and something that's it's kind of a Fargo thing to do. Like they've had similar stuff in the past where you've got these different pieces moving around the board and you think it's this person versus this person, but neither of them realize there's like a third party that's moving pieces without their knowledge. And it always makes for a fun time seeing how these two are going to react, not realizing that this other person is the one that's actually making the moves. So yeah, all in all, it's a good solid season. Not as strong as the first 3, but still a lot of fun. So I will be stepping right into the final 5th season next up. I think, I'm pretty sure, because I'm recording this on the 9th, I'm pretty sure the penultimate episode is releasing today. So by next week, I should have, because I'm going to be a little bit busy this weekend, but by the time the next episode or the final episode comes out, I should have all of, I guess, the final season's reviews recorded. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Basically, I'm going to be doing it, and I hopefully, but I don't get to the final episode before the final episode releases, but I don't think I should. But whatever the case, that's it for Fargo Season 4. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this season and these final 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Fargo reviews, and I'll see you guys at the final season. Peace out.